Good morning, this is Judy from Artistic Artifacts in Alexandria, Virginia, and welcome to our Saturday morning Facebook Live. We thank you for joining us and very appreciative to the fact that you took some time out of your busy day to spend a half an hour with us. Today, I have a project. It's kind of, a lot of ideas are reinvented and reinterpreted, and one of the things is that ancient years, they created books that were on spools. They were spools before they were books in a binding. So many people have created those. Liz Kettle is teaching a book class at Art and Soul in Portland that is a spool with some rusted fabrics and things, and that is in March. Seth Apter has taught a roll book class here with us. So using his spin on paper and layering and things, and we can't wait till Seth is traveling again because we miss him. And then while I kind of go in and out on the stitch meditations and that part of it, so my first roll book for January of this year actually was my stitch meditations. So it just was creating smaller pieces that were for me. I could finish them. Most of them all were in straight stitching. So I'm going to show you a couple of samples that I worked on and then talk to you a little bit about materials. So I found the hardest part is finding a spool, which was amazing to me because thread spools are small. So these are some thread spools. And you can see we use them to wide trim, vintage trims and things on them. But that's a relatively small one. But okay, so maybe you have an inch there. That works. Then I found this spool. I have no idea what was on it that was there. And maybe there's some unpainted ones that you can find in some of these wood shops. But they're, they come in all different styles. And then this piece here was a spool that's very cool, so we'll see that when we unwrap it. And then this one, anytime I find larger spools, I'm sorry, I hoard those, and that's what I kind of use. So this is kind of my spool container. So there's long ones. These Chris gave me, they're absolutely so cool. And then I had a fellow vintage vendor tell me this is a piano roll where you've taken all the paper off and now it becomes your scroll for your scroll book. So always just be on the lookout for funky spools. All right. So as I said, my first one, I did post this, so some of you may have seen it. It is more to me of stitching, and I'm gonna And you can see that these are scraps. So on my Facebook page, you can see the unrolling of this one. And so that was kind of the one that got me started again this year about the idea of the spools. Now, what I did was I started with a piece of fabric. And as you can see, I did only straight stitching. I didn't do anything complicated, not any pattern stitches, just straight stitch. And I'm not worried about what the back looks like because it has its own pattern and texture as well. And I actually glued this one just with some blue tape. I haven't quite gotten my thought process on how to attach these to the spools. All right. So that was my first one. So then when I came back, Chris is like, oh, I did a spool. I took Seth's class. So she brought her spool in, and you can see she did some stitching and also lots of painting. And this is on a canvas fabric. So she has her tie. She has her spool. She did French knots because she's the French knot queen. And then there's different things on her spool. And I'm kind of keeping mine about a yard, but these were a little bit longer, you can see. So wonderful. All right. trying to think of what order I did these in. So then I was like, okay, not everybody likes fabric, so let's figure out what we're going to do with paper. So paper, I of course used my Indian cotton rag paper. So this is, what I took was the printed side, and that became the back side. Now you can turn it over and you can do your design on this, but I was just trying to experiment on using the paper as the backing. So here's this one. Now you can see I'm a little wider because my spool is bigger. I've used rice paper. I've used some fabric, some hanky, because of course I have to put fabric in everything. A little bit of that. And then I tried to have my peony look a little better with some embossing. This is embossing. So, not sure how that turned out, but you know, it is what it is. It is part of the scroll. Some trim I cut, rice paper. So we have a lot of rice paper, Stamperia, and it's really wonderful. I can tell you that I didn't even use a whole sheet on this, but my plan was to do that. So this rice paper is very strong. It rips very nicely. It has textures rather than, you know, always patterns, but we have both. We do have miscellaneous fabric paper packs that are Indian cotton rag that you can just use washi tape and connect them as they go. So if you need to lengthen anything, washi tape or hand stitching. So I did use gel medium on this one with the paper. I really prefer gel medium. Matte medium tends to rip for me. So that is one thing that I highly recommend, is using gel medium rather than matte medium. So there's, yeah, it was all black. It was collaged. I was able to go this wide because of the spool. But definitely I could say it needs a little bit of washi tape that you can put little pieces of squares or strips. So we have some multiple types of washi tape. This is a little bit bigger. This is collage paper from Tim Holtz, and that is a little bit lighter weight than the rice paper, but works the same way. So you can get really big pieces of this. Oh, this one looks pretty fun. These are numbers and things. So, right, the washi tape is definitely something that would be great in here. Okay, any questions at this point?
Two.
Yes.
First one is, sorry, I'm scrolling.
Uh-huh.
Kyle, I'm answering the panel.
Oh, okay, never mind. One. Why not fold the end over and stitch to itself around the spool, all natural, no glue?
Yep, that would be fine.
Okay.
That would be a great idea.
And then we had one about the panels, but Sharon's got it.
Sharon's got that. Okay, so yes, I just, you know, I haven't gotten there yet, but that's a great suggestion. Thank you for that. Now, I do have scraps and little scrap bags that, it's no surprise to anybody. So one of the things that was emailed to me after the thread conversation is, what do I use? How do I do storage? So I do a lot with scraps. I make my postcards, fabric postcards with scraps, vintage, and I can generally keep a bag. These nice zip bags are great. You can make a bag, but what I do is I just cram it all in here. So it could be parts of a hanky, some hand dyed, African fabric, but this is generally more than I'm ever gonna need, but this is what I keep and I travel with. So in this bag I have that. And the other thing, I'm using threads most of the time on that. So let me show you this one. So I am using Sari ribbon that's been ironed, and I'm using my size 12 Wonderfill cotton thread. And that is this one. Sorry, move, Kyle. All right, and this one I just tied it on the edge because it was sorry. So in my little bag of scraps that I have, I might have bigger pieces of this piece of fabric, but I only wanted the dots. And as I said, I'm using a size 12 thread. Here is some cheesecloth, some samples. You know, you are supposed to do samples before you start something. I don't necessarily practice that, but every once in a while, like this was when I was working with foiling. So I cut the sample up and made the sample smaller. So that looks, you know, I like that look. And here's another part of it. So that's what goes into this, is it scraps and it doesn't take a lot. And it is hand stitched. So then the question becomes, how do I store my threads? Well, the size 12 threads come in larger spools, so they're somewhat like this. So a lot of times I am keeping them in a zip bag and wrapping them with the Wonder Guards from Wonderfill. So those are how those are. The smaller spools, which are generally pearl, is I use this package. We have some storage packages from Sue Spargo. So this one zips, the threads are there, you can slide them in and out. It can actually be Velcroed together. That's why I have this wool on here, is because this is a Velcroed end. You can actually create a carrier. So I really love this piece as a place to keep my threads. Now those are all my Sue Spargo threads. I have a lot of other threads. So I have, this is a fly fisherman's package. So you can get these, you know, Walmart, sports stores, and what they have are these plastic pages. And we just, I keep stuff in the pages. You can see I did some stitching on here and painted the covers. So this, I actually keep my painter's threads in here. So I have them a little bit separate. For the type of projects that I'm doing, most of them are samples for the store. So I can at least tell you I did in painter's threads, and I might not be able to tell you what color I used, but that is some things about storage. And I like them to be portable. Not that I always do them, but you know, this hand stitching is a great portable job. All right. Now, this one, as I said, I have lots of scraps, and if I don't have enough scraps, I have friends who give me scraps. So there was Chris was working on a quilt that had this big wide back, and she ended up stripping it. So I had multiple strips from her lining up the fabric. So let me show you this one. So this is using rice paper, and I have my backing is fabric. So I've combined fabric and paper using gel medium on this one. And the rice paper, you see, I can come over the top a little bit. It'll work. And there's that one here. I think this needs some words on it, so maybe I would do some stamping or just it needs another layer. So we have stamps by Seth After and Gwen LaFleur, and this one's very, very small, has some great patterns. This just has some long patterns that work. We have VersaFine Claire, which works great with fine detailed items, but that would to me be the next level on this, is to actually use some of our stamps that we have. Okay, how are we doing on questions? Yes.
Do you carry gel medium in the shop?
Yes, we do. I found over time we do have matte medium, gel medium. It's called soft gel. We do sell golden products, and I just find that the things that I'm working with, it gives it a better body to hold it. It is a glue, and it doesn't rip my papers like matte medium does. I just think matte medium has too much liquid for paper arts, and that was what a lot of us were using in the beginning. All right, no more questions? Good questions. Okay, that's great. So let's see. This one I did last night, and again, I really like this fabric. I'm really happy with this one, and I think that this has some more, but this one is more fabric. So when you're a quilter, some of us don't measure things. Like when you're doing your binding for your quilt, I just kind of eyeball it, and usually I have some left. So this is actually a binding that wasn't used on my quilt. So now I have pattern, top and bottom. And I would have sewed some together if I needed to. And then this, I try to think of a book. So I have pages in here to show you different things. So this is some here, here, here. So that's kind of a page flipping. And then trying to do some, I always am looking for pieces of this kind of funky netting or laces. So we have in the store sections of, in the back towards the first room that have lots of different trims on here. They're usually about a yard. They're individual. I'm sorry, it's too hard to put them online. But for those of you online, we have these bags of mixed trims. So these are the India trims. These are just trims from my studio as I go through things. Their mixtures are all different. This is some more India trims. So we divided up the India trims to be mirrors or whatever. And as I said, you know, you can cut them any way you want, cut them all around, and that's what I used in different pieces. So these are available online as ribbon bags. Then the other thing, which of course I'm a button person, but these cute little buttons, we could just sew those right on there. They add to them. I'm sure some of you guys have button collections that you have, and it would be nice to use the buttons as three-dimensional. And beads, you always can do some beading. So most of these, a couple, did I missing one? Oh, no, okay. So what was easier for me was to use the sari silk. So this is mixed sari silk that comes from saris that have been sliced up. So some of them can be wide and some of them can be small. There are different sizes. We have one that's a chiffon and one's a regular that has a little bit more body. This is more of a chiffon one. But this is a great strip. If you don't have fabric and you want to try working with that, and you can cut little pieces out of it also. You know, so here's maybe some pattern. And when I'm stitching, I use the fabric pattern most of the time. You can see I just stitch around it, and I am just using a straight stitch. So we have some options here that have to do with the sari that I think is a really great place to start. The other place to start is our collections of hand dyes, so that you have your fabric you can strip, you have some trims in here, so it's all colors coordinated. Then we have ribbons. So this would be a great ribbon, just to use the ribbon as your back, as your base for your book. You can go small, wide. And again, I'm always looking for some kind of dimension, something that's going to come off. So you can use these ribbons or the other ribbons. We have lots of ribbons. This one, these are all online. I just kind of like the linen look. It's fun. For if you don't have enough scraps, which you can always have more scraps, then we have some bags that are kind of specialized. So this is a rusted bag sample. Then we have some cotton. We have a stitch meditation bag. We have just a cotton and batik bag of scraps that are ends. And then we do still have some of these specialty bags that are much more than our hand-dyed bundles. But these are all hand-dyed also, and there's some fabric, and there's some trims and laces and thread and scissors. So those are on the website with some specialized colorways that we've concluded. We put them together there. What else do I need to show you? Oh, threads and needles. That was the other question, was needles. And we've talked about this online about, you know, marking a tomato or marking a piece of thread. I don't do that. I just throw them back in my bin. Like one of these magnetic trays, which So I have two of these, one that I actually just keep for needles, machine needles and hand stitching needles. The other thing is that these, if you're really, again, this is the needles that we recommend, Chenille Needles. Love them. And they have little tubes, test tubes. So if you're really good about it, you could put it back in the tube because the tube's marked. Of course, I don't do that. So these are all Chenille needles. If you're just starting out, I recommend that you get the multi-pack. It will give you a range and allow you to use a lot of different threads. This one are for your fingers or polka dots. Our customers have asked for this and they fly out. For people who don't like to use thimbles, this is less obtrusive than a thimble is. And then of course, this is another tool that I always use with my beading and my hand stitching, which is this yo-yo light. So it has a magnifier on the top. That's how I can thread my beading needles. And then I can stitch through the magnifier and it's lit too. So this is a great, great gift for yourself. I did talk about thread not last week, 2 weeks ago. Anyway, it's on YouTube and I did discuss threads when I was doing my block printing. So we did hand threads and machine threads there. One of the threads I did not mention is Sashiko Threads. And we have some variegated, very nice Sashiko. And this is a softer thread than a pearl cotton. So this is a single strand in the pearl cottons, which we have in a great variety of colors. And this is size 8 that, there's lots of opportunity for those as well. What other questions do we have?
What is a Chenille needle? Is it sharp?
Chenille needle is got a larger eye. So this is another tool, Know Your Needles, that we like. It talks about machine needles and hand stitching needles. So what it shows you is the eye. So let's see if Kyle can get it. So a chenille needle has this wide eye. All right, it makes it easier to thread. Does it help? Yeah. That's why I like those. Larger eye, easier to thread. The other thing is, you need to know is the sizing. 18 is a very large needle, whereas 24 is a small needle. That's why I like the assorted packs, because it gives you a little bit of all of them. But tulip needles are very sharp. They last a long time. They don't bend, or at least personally I haven't bent them. And they stay very sharp. So I want to make stitching easy, and having the correct needle is a huge deal. All right. Has anybody online created any of these scroll little books? If you have created any of them, please, you can post on Creative Minds. So Artistic Artifacts Creative Minds is a private group on Facebook. And what we love to have done in that group is for you to post your artwork. Something that may have been purchased materials from us, please post it. If you have an idea of how you've done a scroll book and you are willing to share it with us, we'd like to see you share that. That's a sharing platform. We've made it a group because, of course, we fight Facebook every day about what we see in our feed and what we don't see in our feed. And so that is our way of protecting our feed, is if you're a member of a group. It really makes a huge difference in what you see and what you don't see. What else do we have?
Kit. Kit.
Kit. Oh, kit. Always a little hesitant to do a kit, but we felt like this was a good opportunity. So we did do art dolls and had a kit for them, and that worked out really nicely. So what we've done is, for your starter, we're going to provide you some threads. So this is Glamour, this is size 12 stitching thread, and you have about a yard of multiple colors, just in case you don't have any thread in your house. Then we're going to give you some pieces of fabric scraps, just assorted. several yards of sari silk, so you can make your book on that. We're going to give you 2 spools, and then we have cut pieces of our hand-done paper. So this is a cotton paper. You can stitch through it because it's from cotton rag. India paper, so that's in there. So this kit is on the website, and you can purchase it for $10.99, which gets you above our minimum order of $10. So free shipping is after $75, and with that, then we had to raise that limit because, of course, shipping expenses are through the roof. So we thought this would be a little good starter idea if you had nothing, or it gives you a starter and you can add your personal touches to that. So that kit is there for you, and we have a limited number, so when we're out, we're out. It's all in the spools. So the spools are very cool. So that is for you. Any questions at all? Talked a little bit about storage, my thread.
Don't forget about the random act of kindness giveaway, and Sharon's got all the other questions.
Okay, okay. On Thursday, the 17th, this is for in-store only, is that we are having random act of kindness, so we're giving a 10% off with some limitations, not necessarily Bernina machines and Burnett machines, but a lot of other things that are in the store, all your fabrics and threads and things. And that is just a celebration for you on that day. We also, and I'm not going to get this right because I didn't look at the tag this morning, random acts of art, which Sharon has some information that she put into our newsletter. So what we're going to invite you to do, again, this is an in-store activity, is you can bring an item that you would like to hide in the store. We ask that you tag it, which the tags are in the newsletter, and that you put it in an envelope or a plastic bag, and you can hide it in the store. So you can bring some, and we can give some. So we have various numbers of us in the store that will have items hidden with that specific tag that will be for you to take home with you. So we're asking you to bring some and for us to give some. So does that make sense? That's our event on Thursday. Thursday evening, we're going to have a sale on our Comment Sold app, Artistic Artifacts app, that you can download for iPhone or Android from your app store. And this week, we have various samples that have been created for the store. Not everybody else gets to the store. And so we're going to show you those. We're going to give you some kit ideas and some pattern ideas. And we have the samples made for you to be able to see. Most of our samples are small, but just make a few more blocks and you've got the size that you want. So Chris is going to be the speaker. I'll be Vanna that night. So we'll be here 7 o'clock Thursday Eastern Standard Time. It will be recorded. If you have the app, you can see it at any time. What else do I need to tell them? Do I have it all? Did I get it all?
Oh, is there a video in the archives about the fabric postcards?
There should be a tutorial.
You got her?
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay.
Okay. Sharon's got it. Okay. Yeah, we do. The fabric postcards are easy and fun. And you can practice things. It's a great practice for free motion or stitching and pattern stitching. So I highly recommend that. Okay? All right. I think I got all my announcements. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you enjoy your day. We're a little bit warmer in Washington, D.C. today, so that's quite nice for February. Never know how long it's going to last. Enjoy your day, be creative, and thank you for joining us today.